My name is Aubrey Linette Graves. I'm 22 years old. And what I'm about to tell you is the reason I can't sleep anymore. It's the reason I can't trust anyone, not even myself. This isn't just a creepy story. This is my truth. I was forced to live a truth that still haunts me every time I close my eyes. So please, if you've ever been afraid of what's behind closed doors, if you've ever felt watched even when you were alone, stay with me. This is the story of what happened inside the locked room of Briar Lane. But before we start, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share this story with someone who thinks they know. For this story is written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries. Now, let's begin. They told me not to touch the third door on the second floor. That was the one rule when I signed the lease for the old house on Briar Lane. You'll have the entire upstairs to yourself, said the landlord, a man named Mr. Hawthorne, who smelled like cold cigarettes and paperwork. But the room at the end of the hall, it stays locked. Understood. I remember nodding. I needed the place, needed to escape my ex, the crowded dorms, and whatever mess I left behind back in Michigan. A new town in a quiet suburb of Connecticut seemed like the perfect escape. I was wrong. The first few nights were fine. The house was ancient, but solid hardwood floors creaked beneath my boots. The windows groaned when the wind brushed against them. I convinced myself that was just old architecture, charming even. But the third night, I heard something from behind that locked door, a knock, not loud, not aggressive, just soft, deliberate, like someone wanted me to think I imagined it. I didn't. Check. I rolled over in bed and stared at the ceiling for hours. The next morning, the air felt different, thicker, like the house had taken a breath and was holding it, waiting. I asked Mr. Hawthorne again about the locked room. He looked at me, not directly in the eyes, and muttered, "It's just storage, nothing for you to worry about." That should have been my second red flag. The first. There was no third room on the blueprint he showed me during the tour. It was a 2-bedroom. Upstairs, mine, and a guest room with a bathroom in between. But now, here I was staring at a hallway with 3 doors. By the 5th night, I noticed the temperature near the locked door was always colder. Not just a draft, cold, sharp, like the air carried whispers, frozen. In time, I placed my ear to the door. Nothing until I turned to walk away. Then, a voice so faint I almost missed it. "Don't leave me." I froze, spun around. Silence. That night, I had a dream. I was in a room with no windows, no doors, just 4 gray walls and a single chair in the center. A girl sat in it, barefoot, head down, hair covering her face. I asked her who she was. She looked up, and it was me. I woke up screaming. The same voice from the dream whispered in my ear, "You already opened it." But I hadn't. The door was still locked. Or so I thought. The next morning, it was ajar, just slightly, but enough. I stood there staring at the crack like it would blink. My heart pounded. Every instinct screamed, "Don't go!" But I was 22, exhausted, and frankly pissed. So I pushed it open. What I saw? Nothing. An empty room, dusty, small, 4 walls, a boarded up window, no furniture, no boxes, no ghost girl. I laughed, a short, nervous sound that didn't belong in that room. I turned to leave, but the door was gone. I mean it, gone where there should have been a way out. There was only wall. I touched it, pushed it. It was solid. I screamed. No one came. I don't know how long I was in there. Time stopped or stretched. I sat on the cold floor and cried until I passed out. When I woke up, the door was back. I rushed out, stumbled into the hallway, down the stairs, into the kitchen. Mr. Hawthorne was sitting at the table. "You opened it," he said quietly, not even looking up. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. He sighed. "Then it's already begun." "What's begun?" I asked, but he just stood up, walked past me, and locked the front door from inside. "You need to understand something, Aubrey," he said. "That room isn't just locked with a key. It's locked with memory, and now that you've entered it, it's going to remember you back." I didn't know what he meant. I still don't, not entirely, but that was the day I stopped sleeping, the day the mirrors started lying, the day my reflection blinked when I didn't, and that was just day 1, because the next time I opened that door, there was someone else in the room. He didn't sleep the night after I opened the room. I couldn't. I lay in bed, covers up to my chin, staring at the ceiling, too afraid to blink, afraid that if I closed my eyes, I'd wake up back inside that room, or worse, not wake up at all. Every creak in the hallway sounded like footsteps. every gust of wind against the window felt like a breath down my neck. At 3:09 a.m. I saw my doorknob move just slightly, like someone on the other side was deciding whether or not to turn it. I whispered a prayer, held my breath, and stared at stop. I didn't move until the sun came up that morning. I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't wash my face. I couldn't bring myself to look into the mirror. Something told me if I did, I wouldn't be the only one looking back. But by noon, my hands were shaking so bad I had to at least splash water on my face. I forced myself into the bathroom slowly. The mirror above the sink was foggy. I took a deep breath. One glance, I told myself, just one. I looked up and everything froze. It was me, but not really. My reflection blinked slowly. It smiled when I wasn't smiling. Its lips parted like it wanted to speak, but no sound came. Then its eyes rolled back white and endless, and its mouth stretched open wider than humanly possible, like it wanted to swallow me whole. I stumbled back, hit the wall, and screamed. The mirror shattered. I never touched it. I swear on everything I've ever known, I never touched it. But it exploded like it had been punched from the inside. Hawthorne came running, but when he saw the glass, he didn't ask questions. He just muttered, "It's starting earlier than I thought." I demanded answers. I shouted. I even cried. But all he said was, "Once the room knows your name, it doesn't let go. It's not just haunt. Aubrey, it's hungry." That night, I left all the lights on, every single one. I bolted my bedroom door. I placed a chair against the knob, and still, at exactly 3:17 a.m., I heard breathing, not outside, inside. Like someone was under my bed. I didn't look. I couldn't. I remembered something my grandmother once told me when I was little. Don't give the dark a reason to know your face. So I shut my eyes. But then the bed shifted just enough, a gentle tug on the sheets. My legs froze, my spine locked. Then I heard it right by my ear. "We've been waiting for you," I screamed so loud I swear the walls vibrated. When I opened my eyes, the lights were out. The chair was across the room, and the locked door, the one at the end of the hallway, was wide open. I grabbed my phone, tried to call 911, no signal. I ran to the front door, tried to unlock, it wouldn't budge. I threw the bolt, nothing. I screamed for help out the window. The neighborhood was silent, still, like it didn't exist anymore. I turned around and she was there, the girl from my dream, only this time she wasn't in a chair. She was standing at the foot of the stairs, soaked, barefoot, wearing a tattered white dress. Her hair clung to her face like wet seaweed, and in her hand, she held my locket, the one my mom gave me when I was 12, the one buried in a box back in Michigan. How? I couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't speak. She just raised her hand and pointed toward the third door behind her. I could see it now. The room was glowing, faint blue light like moonlight underwater. I backed away, whispering, "This isn't real. This isn't real." But my feet betrayed me. They moved forward slowly, like my body was being pulled. When I reached the hallway, the cold hit me again, only this time it burned my fingertips. Went numb, my breath fog. I reached for the door frame, and as soon as I crossed it, everything changed. The hallway disappeared. The house disappeared. I was in a corridor made of mirrors stretching infinitely in all directions. Every reflection was of me. I twisted. One smiled to wide, another cried blood. One had no face at all. I turned to run, but the floor melted beneath me. I fell screaming, falling until I landed on something soft, grass. I sat up. I was in the backyard at dawn in my pajamas, barefoot, covered in dirt, and in my hand was the locket. I ran inside, hyperventilating, shivering, crying. Mr. Hawthorne was sitting at the kitchen table again, sipping tea like it was just another Tuesday. "She showed you the corridor," he said. "She only does that to the one she wants to keep." I demanded to know who she was. He looked up, eyes sank. And hollow. "Her name was Esther. She died in that room in 1960. Her parents locked her in there for 7 days, said she was possessed. When they opened it again, she wasn't human anymore. She's never left." I didn't believe him. I wanted to run, but where would I go? The doors didn't open. My phone didn't work. The town outside didn't move. That night, I fell asleep clutching the locket, and when I opened my eyes, I was back in the mirror corridor. Only this time, one of the reflections stepped out, and she looked exactly like me, except she smiled with teeth that weren't mine, and she said, "You don't need your body anymore. I'll take it from here." When I opened my eyes the next morning, something felt wrong. At first glance, everything looked normal. My room, my sheets, the early morning light leaking through the blinds. But the silence was thicker than usual, heavier, like the air itself didn't trust me. I sat up slowly, expecting to see the locket clutched in my fist. But it was gone. In its place, I found a sliver of mirror glass sharp enough to draw blood, already stained with a single finger print that wasn't mine. I got up, heart racing, and approached the vanity mirror above my dresser. My reflection was there, yes, but I knew right away it wasn't me. My head tilted a half second to slow. My smile lingered too long. I raised my hand, and the reflection followed, but then it blinked twice. When I hadn't blinked once, I gasped and stepped back. But my reflection didn't. It stayed close to the glass, watching me, grinning. Then clear as day, it mouthed a word I couldn't hear, but I understood. Mine. I backed into the hallway, nearly tripping over the rug, and when I looked toward the third door, it was gone again, just like before. I ran downstairs to confront Mr. Hawthorne, but he wasn't there. The kitchen was empty, and touched his teacup was still warm, but no sign of him. I called his name, no response. I checked the front door again, still locked, this time deadbolted with a new set of chains I didn't install. I tried every window, nailed shut. It was like the house had sealed itself shut with me inside. Trap chosen. I returned upstairs, and the door was back, slightly open, glowing faintly. I don't remember walking toward it, only standing in front of it again, hand outstretched, trembling. But before I could touch it, I heard my voice from behind the door, laughing, not just laughing, mimicking, like a bad recording of my own voice being played back with the settings wrong, distorted, mocking. I yanked my hand away and whispered, "What do you want from me?" And the door creaked wider inside. I saw myself sitting on the floor, head tilted, hair covering half my face. But it wasn't me, not really. She smiled without joy, then held up my phone. I could see the screen. It was unlocked, open to my camera. It was recording. She'd been watching, recording, pretending. Suddenly she whispered, "You left the door open." I didn't, and with that she stood and walked toward me. I slammed the door shut. I barricaded it with everything I could drag, dresser, a broken lamp. Then I ran to the bathroom to throw up. But when I looked in the mirror again, she was still there, and this time her face was cracked like porcelain, leaking something dark down the lines. I closed my eyes and screamed. When I opened them, my reflection was normal again, but I didn't believe it. I knew better now. The house wasn't haunted, it was alive. And the girl inside that room wasn't a ghost. She was a version of me, or the version that the house wanted me to become. I tried writing it all down in my notebook, but the pen wouldn't work. Every word I wrote bled into black smudges. I flipped the pages and realized they were all filled, hundreds of pages I never wrote, filled with dates, phrases, symbols I couldn't recognize, and worst of all, entries in my handwriting that described things I hadn't done. Fed her again. She's still hungry. Slept in her skin for the first time. Warm, comfortable. The mirror is almost ready. She trusts me now. I dropped the notebook and backed away. None of this made sense unless I'd already been in that room longer than I thought, unless time had shifted, unless she had already come through once before and I hadn't noticed. The thought paralyzed me. That night I heard scratching behind the walls, not rats, not wood settling, but fingernails digging, tearing. I heard humming to an old lullaby I didn't recognize, but somehow knew. I couldn't sleep. Every time I blinked, I saw flashes as those face, my cracked reflection, the corridor of mirrors, blood, water, broken glass, teeth. By 4 a.m. I gave up and sat in the hallway with my back against the third door, trying to feel something real, though what, against my spine, the ache in my legs, something to remind me I was still me. That's when I felt the breath on my neck, warm, slow close. I turned my head, and there was no one, but the door behind me pulsed like a heartbeat, and then I heard it. "Let me wear you." I jumped up screaming and backed away, tears burning down my face. I ran into my room, slammed the door, and finally did what I swore I never would. I FaceTimed my mom. To my shock, it rang, it connected. But when the screen lit up, it wasn't her, it was me, in her house, wearing her robe, holding the phone. "Hi, Mom," I said in the video. "Just wanted to let you know I'm doing fine. Tell Dad I love him." Then it hung up. I stared at the screen, hands shaking. Whoever was in the room now had already left, or maybe I was never meant to. Maybe I was the one still trapped behind the door that night. I went back to the locked room, no more running, no more pretending. I opened it, stepped inside. It was pitch black, silent. I whispered, "If you want me, here I am," and she answered, "Good girl." The door slammed shut behind me, and I felt everything. I was memories, thoughts, my name being pulled from my skin like static until I wasn't sure anymore if I was Aubrey or just another reflection walking the corridor waiting for someone new to open the door. I don't remember falling asleep inside the room. I don't remember closing my eyes, laying down, or dreaming. All I know is that when I opened them, I was standing in the middle of my own bedroom. Nothing looked right there. Walls were slightly too tall, the corners of the ceiling curved inwards like a cage, and my reflection in the mirror was smiling. Even though I wasn't, I touched my face, it felt real, my breath fogged the glass. I blinked, but something inside me whispered, "This isn't your side anymore." I ran to the door, flung it open, and rushed downstairs. But the kitchen was different now, elongated to clean like it had been drawn by memory instead of built with hands, and there she was, me sitting calmly at the table, sipping from Mr. Hawthorne's teacup, wearing my clothes, my smirk, and the same birthmark behind my left ear that no one else should know about. I froze. She looked up and said, "I knew you'd wake up eventually." Her voice was identical to mine, yet deeper, smoother, like someone had sanded down the edges. I stammered, "What are you?" And she answered, "Better, stronger, the version you never had the courage to be." She stood and walked toward me, and every step she took made the ground shiver beneath my feet. I backed away. "This is my life," I shouted. She laughed. "No, Aubrey, you gave that up the moment you opened the door. I didn't steal it, you let it go." I turned and ran up the stairs into the guest room, slammed the door and locked it behind me, heart pounding, hands shaking, tears blurring my vision. I looked for my phone, my bag, anything gone. Even the family photo I kept in my drawer was altered. Everyone was smiling except me. My face had been blurred, like someone tried to erase me and gave up halfway. Suddenly, a soft knock at the door. "Aubrey," she whispered sweetly, "you forgot your place." I held my breath. The doorknob turned slowly. I screamed, but the door didn't open. Instead, the wall behind me cracked like old plaster, and a hand, pale, familiar, mine reached through and touched my shoulder. I turned, slapped it away, and the wall sealed again, as if it had never moved. I was going mad. I had to be, but the voice in my head kept repeating one line, "You're not where you think you are." That night, the dreams came again, but this time I wasn't in them. I was watching through someone else's eyes, watching her live my life, sitting with my mom, petting my childhood dog, walking around campus in my hoodie, laughing with my best friend, flirting with my old boyfriend, and everyone believed it. No one noticed I was gone because she had my smile, my voice, my memories, my everything. When I woke up, I was still in the guest room, but the window now opened to something else, not the street, not the trees, but a void, endless and quiet, full of floating mirrors, showing alternate versions of me, some happy, some screaming, some dead. I shut the curtains and screamed into a pillow until I lost my voice. I needed to find Hawthorne. He had to know something. I burst from the room and tore through the house, calling his name. Nothing, silence. Then footsteps. I followed them to the basement door. I hadn't even known there was a basement. I hesitated, but something told me I wouldn't get another chance. I opened the door. Cold air rushed up. The light flickered. The steps groaned under my feet as I descended, each one echoing louder than the last. At the bottom, I found a wooden table covered in newspaper clippings, Polaroids, and drawings. In the center, Mr. Hawthorne sitting still, eyes open, but his throat slit wide open, dried blood down his shirt, his hand clutching a letter addressed to me. I took it with trembling fingers and read, "She's not the first and you won't be the last. If you're reading this, she's already started feeding. The room is a gate, a mirror, a hunger it pulls in. Souls that are fractured, weak, lost. It doesn't hunt, it consumes. And once she's worn your skin, she doesn't give it back." The letter ended with one final line, "Break the reflection or become one." My breath caught in my throat. I stumbled back, dropped the letter. And as I did, I heard her voice from upstairs, sweet, playful like a melody. "Aubrey, I'm wearing your lips tonight." I ran up the stairs, but the layout had changed again. The hallway was an infinite stretch of doors, dozens of them, all labeled Aubrey Graves. I picked one, then another, but each opened into a different version of my room, each one slightly wrong posters, wrong lighting, wrong childhood photos. One had blood on the walls. Another had no walls at all, and in one, I saw myself. Hanging from the ceiling, eyes wide open, I screamed and shut the door. Suddenly she appeared beside me casually, like she'd always been there. "You were never meant to survive this place," she whispered. "You were just a shell waiting to be hollowed out." I lunged at her, grabbed her face, looked into her eyes. "Answer every memory I'd ever buried, every lie I told, every fear I carried, every dark thought I never said out loud." She smiled and said, "See, you made me then." Shoved me backward through one of the doors. I fell screaming again through a tunnel of static and glass until I hit the ground hard, flat on my back, gasping. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed, bright white lights, machines, monitors. A nurse leaned over me, surprised. "You're awake," she whispered. "You've been in a coma for 2 months." My throat was too dry to speak. I tried to sit up. "You were found in an abandoned house on Briar Lane," the nurse explained. "You had no ID, no phone, just a broken mirror shard clutched in your hand." My heart pounded. What's my name?" I rasped. She checked the clipboard. "They logged you as Jane Doe. We never found your real name." My chest tightened. "No," I whispered. "My name is Aubrey Linette Graves." The nurse blinked. "That's not the name you gave us." My blood ran cold. I turned my head toward the window and saw her reflection in the glass, smelly, eyeing at me from inside my hospital. Rumi should have died in that coma. I know that now. Whatever brought me back, it wasn't medicine, it wasn't fate, it was her, the version of me that didn't belong here. The one that stepped out of the mirror and never looked back, the nurse said. I was awake, but everything felt wrong. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder than they should. The 4 in my arm pulsed like it had a heartbeat. The machines round me beeped in a rhythm that wasn't medical, it was musical, like a lullaby I'd forgotten long ago. I tried to sit up, and every joint in my body screamed like it had been unused for years. My mind remembered falling through that door. My skin remembered something worse being worn. As I looked around the room, I noticed something strange. There were no reflective surfaces, not the tray, not the 4th pump, not even the water in the cup beside me. Everything was matte dull, like the staff were keeping me from seeing myself. That's when I realized they weren't nurses, they weren't doctors. They were watchers. I caught one of them, a woman in scrubs, with eyes too wide and smile to still, writing something down on a clipboard. I glanced at the page. It was filled with tally marks. My name scratched over and over, and one sentence written in red ink. She must not see herself. I stayed quiet, pretended I was tired. I waited until they left the room, then pulled the 4 from my arm and staggered out into the hallway. The lights flickered. Every door was closed, every sign on the wall pointed toward the observation wing. But I didn't care. I needed to see a mirror. I needed to know if I was still me or if she was still inside. I found a janitor's closet lock. I kicked it open. Inside, on the back of a metal cleaning cart, was a small mirror, dusty, cracked, but intact. I held it up to my face and screamed. My reflection didn't move, it just stared. And then it blinked, slowly, smiling like it had been waiting for this moment. You're in the wrong place, it mouthed. This body belongs to me. I dropped the mirror, stumbled backward into the hall, and ran bare feet slapping against cold linoleum. The walls began to melt, the floor stretched. The lights above grew brighter and brighter until they exploded in flashes of blinding white. I slammed through a door at the end of the hallway, and suddenly, I was outside in daylight, in the middle of a town I didn't recognize. And I wasn't alone. People were everywhere, normal people, talking, laughing, walking, dogs sipping coffee. I tried to speak, to scream for help, but my voice cracked like static. They walked past me like I didn't exist. I cut my reflection in a shop window. It was her again, waving from inside, wearing the clothes I had on the day I opened the door. She mouthed, "Thank you for the life." I ran again, down streets that bent in impossible angles, past buildings that changed shapes. When I looked away until I found the house, Briar Lane B. And it was different now, newer, painted wide, a for sale sign in the yard. I approached, hands trembling, knees buckling. As I stepped onto the porch, the air shifted. That familiar cold, my breath turned visible. I reached for the doorknob. It turned easily, the door creaked open. Inside, everything was spotless. A woman stood at the stove, humming the lullaby I'd heard in the coma. She turned around And it was my mother. I burst into tears, ran to her, hugged her. But she pulled back, confused. Can I help you? She asked. Mom, it's me, Aubrey, I cried. But she only frowned. I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong house. I backed away, heart pounding. You don't remember me. Her husband walked in, not my father, stranger. He put his arm round her and asked if everything was okay. She nodded, and they both looked at me like I was a beggar on their porch. I turned, ran, and didn't stop until I was in the woods behind the house. The same place I used to play as a kid. There in the middle of the trees, I saw her standing perfectly still, wearing my face and my body with the locket around her neck. She smiled. You're doing well, she said. Most don't last this long. They forget themselves faster, I shouted. Give it back, and lunged. But the air between us rippled like glass. She was behind a veil I couldn't cross. You still don't understand, she whispered. You didn't lose your life, you gave it to me. The door doesn't open unless you're already broken. I fell to my knees. Why me? I sobbed. She stepped closer. Because you were so easy to wear. Then she vanished, sucked into the air like smoke. I sat in the dirt, crying, screaming into the nothingness. Hours passed, or minutes, I couldn't tell. Eventually I stood, dirty, barefoot, invisible. I wandered into town again. No one saw me, no one heard me, and now every reflective surface I pass shows me a version of myself. I've never been angry, dead, possessed, gone. The only place that still acknowledges my presence is the door, the original door back in the corridor. So now I wait, because I know another girl will come, another lonely soul with a cracked heart and nowhere to go. And when she opens the door, maybe I'll be the one who steps out. Maybe I'll wear her face. Maybe this time I'll live. It's been weeks, or maybe years. I don't know anymore. Time doesn't move the same in this in-between place, this limbo of mirrors and locked doors and lives that don't belong to me. I wander empty streets that lead to nowhere, surrounded by echoes of memories that were once mine, but now belong to her, the one walking around in my skin. Every so often, I catch glimpses of the world I left through glass water chrome. I see her brushing my hair, signing my name, smiling my smile. She has friends now. She has a job. She posts selfies and uses captions I would have written. No one questions it. No one asks where I am, because to them I am still there, but I'm not. I'm stuck here in a loop of stolen moments, lost reflections, and repeating whispers. I try to remember my name out loud each day. Aubrey Linette Graves. But lately even that feels like a lie. Some mornings I wake up answering to other names written on walls in blood, scratched into glass, sung through the static of broken televisions. In this place, names like Helen, Mercy, Claire, and once horrifyingly Mother. It's like the souls of others trapped here are bleeding into me, and I can't stop absorbing them. I met a woman named Naomi. She looked 40, but spoke like a child. Her eyes were mirrors. When I asked her what year it was, she said, "It's always the year after you lost yourself." She told me she opened a door like mine in 1987. She's still waiting to go back. I think my son is older than me now, she whispered, then faded into dust before I could speak again. I've tried to escape so many times. I've screamed until my throat bled, climbed towers that disappeared behind me, stepped through doorways that looped me back to the beginning. Once I tried to break the mirror corridor. From the inside, I picked up a shard, stabbed one of the reflections in the throat, and watched as my own neck began to bleed. The pain was real, the scars remained. I realized then that this place doesn't just show you yourself. It binds you to every version. If one dies, they all feel it, but she doesn't seem to feel anything. She continues to live. I saw her on the news, a background blur in a crowd, smiling as another tragedy played out. I think she feeds on suffering. Not just mine, anyone's. The house, that room isn't haunted. It's a living parasite. And the door is its mouth. And we, the broken girls, are just raindrops it catches. But I've started hearing new whispers, louder, closer. The door is waking up again. That means someone new is near, a new girl, and new mirror, and new Aubrey. The walls are thinner now. I can almost feel her breath on the other side. I've started preparing. I've scratched a map on my arms, where each memory is buried, which reflection holds, which life I've memorized. The rhythm of the lights in the corridor. I've learned that pain brings clarity here, so I cut just a little each day, not to die, to remember. I will not forget who I am again, not like the others, not like Naomi. The moment the door opens again, I'll be ready. I'll step forward smiling, broken and beautiful, just like it wants me to be. And this time, I won't ask for my life back. I'll take it, even if it means dragging her back through the glass. And leaving her here in my place, even if it means someone else opens the door one day and finds two of us waiting, one to welcome her, one to replace her. The door is a mirror, the mirror is a mouth, the mouth is hungry, and I've finally grown teeth. It happened at 3:17 a.m. again, the exact minute the mirror first cracked, the lights first flickered, and my life stopped belonging to me. I knew she would come. I could feel her breath between the walls, her heartbeat echoing inside the corridor. The new girl, the next soul drawn to Briar Lane like a moth to static. I saw her pale, tired, broken in the places that made her vulnerable enough to knock. Her name was Natalie. I watched her from the other side of the veil, just like she'll one day watch someone else. She wandered through the empty house, drawn toward the third door, the one that hadn't existed until she needed it to. She thought it was curiosity, wasn't it? Was invitation. I pressed my palms against the inside of the mirror corridor, whispering her name until she heard me. She hesitated. Her fingers hovered above the doorknob. I felt her doubt, her pain, her desperation. And that's when I pushed not the door, but the memory. I shoved it forward the way the room taught me, feeding her just enough of my voice, my fear, my story. It worked. The door creaked open, light spilled, and there she stood, Natalie, trembling, looking into a darkness she didn't understand. I didn't wait. I ran toward her. With everything I had left, years of rage, pain, and stolen breath, I hit the threshold, and then she stepped back, not out of fear, out of instinct, and I saw the terror in her eyes, not of me, but of herself. She slammed the door, and everything shattered. The corridor exploded into a million shards. Time spun backward, screams filled the void, and suddenly I was falling again, but this time not into darkness, into light. I woke up on the floor of the old house, same hardwood, same hallway, but the door gone. No third room, just a blank wall. My body ached, but it was mine. My breath was shaky, but real. I stumbled into the bathroom and stared into the mirror. My reflection blinked with me. No delay, no smile, no whisper, just me. Finally, I sobbed until I collapsed on the tile. When I woke up again, the house was filled with sound, wind, birds, people outside. The front door open, my phone lit up. Everything was normal. But I knew better. I left her behind, not the version of me that stole my life, but the girl who had to become a monster just to take it back. She's still in there waiting, scratching her name into walls, whispering into cracks, feeding the house with everything I couldn't carry anymore. I sold the house 2 weeks later. I never told the truth, just said it had bad energy. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear her voice through the static of an old TV. I wore you better than you wear yourself. And I wonder, what if Natalie had opened the door? What if she had been weaker or braver? What if I had never escaped? But then I remind myself I did. I won. I survived. I got my face, my body, my name back. But in the shadows of my dreams, she still smiles, because now I look in mirrors and flinch. I avoid reflections. I check the hallway every night, because once you open that door, it never really closes. It just waits for the next crack to crawl through. So if you ever find yourself in a house with one door too many, don't open it, don't ask, don't knock. And whatever you do, don't blink first. What part haunted you the most? Would you have opened the door? Tell us in the comments. And if this story chilled you to your bone, subscribe, like, and share for more tales like this. *. This story was written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries.